Welcome back. Now, South Africans can travel to the United Arab Emirates again as from tomorrow. UAE will be dropping its travel ban imposed on South Africa 2 months ago. But other southern African countries will also be permitted to travel to the Emirates. So for more on this, I'm now joined by Unathi Henama, an independent tourism commentator. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Henama, and good morning to you. My first question is, why did it take the UAE so long? 2 months? In my personal view, it's been a long time coming. But we know that finally they've decided now to release South Africa from the travel ban.
I'm actually surprised that they took so long because they're one of the first countries to open up their country for tourists during the highest time of the pandemic, because they said that they needed to create confidence within the market by being the first country to open for visitors. So I think, once again, this gives an opportunity for our diplomatic corps to have better engagement with partner countries on how we can work together in the post-COVID reality. So once again, the Department of Decor, working with the Department of Tourism and Trading Industry, need to obviously ensure that in the future, challenges such as this don't happen again, where scientific articulations about COVID must be the one that decides whether a country must be locked down or not. So I believe in this indication, it showed that maybe the UAE did not follow the science, which was, I think, everywhere in the world.
Yeah. Are you saying that perhaps South Africa should also take a lead from Kenya? I mean, I remember when the UAE also banned Kenya amongst those other countries, African countries. They too lifted, rather they had a ban on passenger flights as well. I'm not sure if it was in retaliation or they saw a scientific threat in terms of the variant, but it did send a strong message to the UAE.
I'm not one for retaliation. I always believe diplomacy must always win the day. What I can indicate to you is that the UAE has been hurt by the travel ban they imposed on South Africa and southern African countries. That is because OR Tambo is a major regional hub in the southern hemisphere in Africa. And then they would obviously connect flights to the UAE, increasingly Doha. So they were losing a lot of business for connecting flights that were connecting to the UAE. So this also hurt them in the pocket. So retaliatory things are not in the long-term interest of any country.
With that being said, we know that this ban is not sort of like, a ticket to just land in Dubai, for instance, and go about your business as a tourist. There's still some regulations and some protocols that still need to be followed, such as still isolating, waiting for those results, conducting your PCR test 48 hours before flying. What do you make of this? Do you think we should still have the PCR test? Do you think it should be as easy as landing in Dubai? I mean, what do you think should follow, especially when it comes to quarantining once you've arrived in your destination?
I think England has provided the great direction that quarantine is no longer necessary because they understand that in order to recover their economy, they need to open up. I believe now we have learned to coexist with the COVID-19 pandemic. But instead of us focusing on Dubai, I think the question is once again being brought back to us as Africa, saying that why isn't that we in SADC are not saying if you arrive with a PCR test which is negative in South Africa, then you can travel to all the other Southern African countries, because the cost of traveling has been increased because of the COVID-19 pandemic, making it unaffordable. Now, Tumelo, we're very far from source markets all over the world. So if a person coming from London, coming to visit South Africa, they usually want to visit 2 or more countries around. So now the cost of the PCR test becomes an impediment to promoting intra-Africa travel when tourists are here. So I think this is a far more broader conversation that we as the African continent should be conversing about.
Yeah. I'm just keen to know from you, do you think we should expect any future travel bans? We've been hearing about subvariants from different experts. And I just wonder, with these different subvariants, should South Africa prepare itself? Because just when we thought we were out of the woods with the UK, we saw the travel ban with the UAE. And I suppose for sector and industry to prepare itself, where should we be thinking in terms of preparing industry for any future bans or not?
I think industry, obviously the industry is obviously dependent on a lot of international visitors coming to the country.
Yeah.
But I believe with what happened with the Omicron variant is when science became to triumph the politics of just imposing travel bans because there's a new variant. I believe now the world is very much sober in the coexistence of us with any other variant. The issue is that the scientists say this variant can be anywhere in the world. Let's just continue observing what the World Health Organization has been advising. But I believe future travel bans will not happen. But once again, as a tourism industry, what we have learned is that we must increasingly look to the East Asia. We must increasingly look to Latin America to grow our tourism market, because it's always countries in the West which are the first to impose travel bans when all of these variants have been occurring.
Yeah.
So I think it once again says for our resilience, let's look to the East and look to Latin America to grow our tourism industry.
I appreciate your time this morning and giving us some insights into what's been happening in the tourism industry in South Africa and internationally.